All right. So let's kind of talk through a default on Ascent. It's something that we struggle with a lot, and I think we even kind of struggle with initially setting up the default. So before we even talk about kind of setting up the default, I want to go over kind of the biggest goals that we all need to have in mind. So let's say it's mid rifle round Ascent offense. We've been kind of trying to execute. Maybe it's worked, maybe it hasn't. Either way, it's not working every single round. This Killjoy's maybe she's been flip flopping back and forth a little bit on us, kind of confusing us. We've executed into her a couple times. We've lost those executes, and so we want to try default. We think that would be a pretty good strategy here, trying to figure out where this Killjoy's playing, and maybe hit the other site. So our goals here. Number one is to gather information. We want to find out where this Killjoy is playing and where their other stall is playing as well. Where's their KO playing? Where's their Sova playing? Those are kind of the biggest, most important pieces of information regarding locations of other agents on the other team for us to make an informed decision here. Just their most util heavy heroes, and KO even probably more so than Sova, but Sova's got a lot of really good util for holding off an execute as well, like recon darting this wall, shocking the entrance. So he's not something that you can just brush off, like Jet over here. Useless little bitch. Anywho, goal number two: gaining and maintaining map control as safely as possible. So this is something that I think this is kind of the big one that we miss a lot, is especially maintaining map control. So how can we work together to secure as much map control as we can as safely as possible? On Ascent, there's really three things for us to consider in terms of map control at the start of a round. There's A main, there's mid, and there's B main. Now at the very beginning of a round, I think it's likely most important for us to secure A main, B main, potentially both, one or the other, whatever we want to do. It kind of depends on how aggressively they're playing. Are they pushing? Are they playing this angle? Are they playing passive, kind of just giving this to us? So it depends on kind of the other team's play style, but for the sake of this, let's say that they're a relatively passive defensive team, and we want to securely establish maybe just A main control in this round, and while we watch B main. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to divide our heroes, our agents, whatever you may call them, into kind of two groups here, maybe 2.5 groups. Info gatherers, sort of an info gatherer, not info gatherers. That's the most important part of a default, because the info gatherers are going to help us gather information. We're going to use that information to gain and maintain map control as safely as possible. And once we have information and once we have map control, we can form a plan in the middle of a round based on that information and map control, and we can decide what site we want to execute. In terms of what we're looking for, really the most important one is the Killjoy. So let's set up for a default with the plan to take A main orb for Killjoy and maintain that A main pressure. So we're going to send Killjoy A, and immediately sending this Killjoy towards A means Sova goes towards B. You want to split up the information as much as you can. It's an efficiency to have Sova and Killjoy on the same side of the map, as they're the two best agents for maintaining free and safe map control. So we're going to have Killjoy set up over here. We're going to have her put her turret, B main. And once that turret is B main, she can secure that orb. Likely you would send somebody to help her. Maybe Reyna comes over, kind of just watches that angle, make sure somebody doesn't swing to the turret. Secure that orb at the start of the round. And already, this is probably the max amount of people we want on this side of the map. You almost never want to stack the same side of the map as the agent who has the easiest and most free map control. So Killjoy by herself here will maintain all of A main, and by herself can provide support to mid through mid top. So having a second agent here is fine. I think it's probably a good idea to have this Reyna fight for mid control rather than the Killjoy, because you don't want this Killjoy taking fights just because of how valuable her util is over the course of the entire round. So they get the B main more, and they come back over here, and we're looking towards mid. Sova, meanwhile, probably makes the most sense to play tiles. Maybe you use some sort of a recon dart, B main at the start of the round. Make sure that we're not getting pushed on. Either way, I think it's probably a better idea for the Sova to come mid. And then we're going to have Omen and Raze on this side of the map as well. And one of these two is dedicated flank watch here until we decide that we're going to the other site, or vice versa, and then they would be part of the site hit. So, at the same time, that we're getting this orb A. We're having a little squadron over here. Maybe this Sova recons B main. We get that information of B main. Let's Omen kind of work up here a little bit, kind of play off that information. Maybe he's jiggling this corner, looking to see if anybody comes up. Maybe he's playing with Rays, maybe Rays Boombots. Another information piece of utility. Kind of lets us get control of this, and if it's safe, kind of work for that orb as well. So after we get that orb, we've kind of pushed up here. We've tried to accomplish our major goal of figuring out that Killjoy's on B site. You can accomplish that either by using sound cues, kind of jiggling this corner if you think that's safe at this point. You see the turret, boom, you're done. No more jiggling. You found the piece of information that you were looking for. You're not looking to take a fight here. We're simply looking to get this map control and establish that Killjoy is playing B site this round. So this all occurs probably the first 10 to 15 seconds of a round. So where are we now? We've got B main control, we've got A main control. We don't have much going on in mid yet, but we have enough safety on the wings that we can basically make a play for mid here very safely. So what happens now is, it doesn't really matter which one of these two agents you pick, but one of them would swing over to tiles, and now we have a pretty easy 3-man game going on in mid here. So we can use a Sova drone up mid, we can smoke tiles, we can use whatever kind of means we want in order to establish more mid control here. And once we do that, we've now used our agent util instead of our bodies in order to freely get A main control and orb, B main control. This will be a little trickier, just kind of based on how they respond to it. Like if Killjoy's not playing here, there's a good chance that they could get kind of aggressive in B. So this isn't a given, but anyways, let's just say we have it. So now we have us three in mid. Killjoy's still watching this flank, kind of providing backline support in mid. And Omen is kind of just hanging out, watching flank here, smoking for us in mid when we need him to. So, what do we know now? We know we have A main control. We have less secure control of B main, given that we don't have some sort of a turret like this. We know Killjoy's playing B. And maybe we don't know much about the other agents already, but we've already kind of figured out the most important one. And this all occurs within 30 seconds of the round starting. We have map control of this entire half of the map. We've got semi-control over here. Maybe we've already gotten the orb, and more importantly, we figured out that Killjoy's playing over here. So, automatically, knowing that Killjoy's playing over here, this map control, it's less important. We're less likely to execute this site, and therefore it's less important for us to have this B main control. So maybe we say, okay, we know what we're going to do now. We know Killjoy's over here. We have pretty firm control of A. Let's do an A split. So what does that look like? All of us need to be on the same page for this. So, Omen pulls off flank. Maybe Reyna goes back A main. We smoke off arches. And now we have a 3-man hit coming in through tree. And these two can work all the way up to A main pretty freely. We know that there's no sort of a contest here. They can't be whined because the turret's been watching it the whole time. And so now we can form kind of our typical A split execute with the knowledge that Killjoy is over at B. She shouldn't be able to be here in time unless that we went too slowly, we weren't decisive with the information that we had. We kind of dawdled, or they got a pick somewhere. But this is kind of assuming that this all goes perfectly. So now we've set ourselves up for this position where we can safely execute A, give ourselves the best possible chance of success in this round, just based on the information and map control that we already had. This free A main map control, the knowledge of where Killjoy is, and the ability to kind of take mid and give ourselves enough of a safe passage through mid in order to make this split as effective and high a chance of success as possible. So that's kind of the goal of a default. What we did here is we took our time to use our utility across the map in a smart and efficient manner to gain that information and maintain that map control. And then we decided, okay, hey, we're spread out, but we know where Killjoy's playing. We know where we have map control and what that implies in terms of what makes the most sense to execute. For example, we have the A main control because of the turret. We don't have the B main control. Killjoy's on B, no Killjoy on A. Those are two pretty strong indicators that A is the safer hit in this situation. And then we just hit it. It's that simple. We pull off flank, we play together, We make decisions that make sense. We split up the duelists. We keep Killjoy on this side of the map the whole time. We have Reyna entering from main. We have Raze entering in from tree, so we have one entry on each. A couple support heroes here. Maybe Sova can drone us through. Omen can get smokes down wherever he wants. And then we just hit it. And if it still doesn't work, well, kind of fuck us at that point. We still did everything right, and sometimes it still doesn't work. But that's kind of what you should be looking for in a default. Obviously, it's a lot more in-depth than this. What happens if you get a pick? What happens if they get a pick? How do you respond, etc. But this is baseline what a default should look like. Obviously, it's much more complicated than this, but that's kind of just the basic outline of what we should be looking to accomplish and how we can make smart decisions based on utility and starting location of our agents in order to give us the best chance possible of giving ourselves a clean hit onto a site when we're kind of struggling to execute.